which I recall.
It's less distractions, right? So you can pay attention towards the front.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Reneker. I am a project manager here at the Vicksburg District Corps of Engineers. I want to welcome you today to the first of 3 sessions talking about the Yazoo Backwater. Before I get started on that, I'd like to do a couple of introductions. From EPA, we have Region 4. They might be having some travel. They might be a little bit late, but Ms. Janine Gettle, the Acting Regional Administrator for Region 4, Katie Butler, Water Division Director of Region 4, and Kenneth Dean, the NEPA lead for Region 4. Also in attendance is Ms. Stacy Jensen, Director of Oceans, Wetlands, and Communities Division. There she is. And Laura Shumway, the Special Assistant at Headquarters EPA. In addition, we have Fish and Wildlife participation. Daphne Pitchford, the Acting Deputy Regional Director. There she is. Mr. James Austin, Mississippi Ecological Services Field Supervisor. And Ms. Melissa Moore, Deputy Field Supervisor. And up here we have Ms. Robin Colosimo. Let me go to my other notes here. Sorry about that. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army, Project Planning and Policy Review, and Colonel Jeremiah Gibson, the Commander of the Vicksburg District. Now, I was supposed to open it up as well. Or do we have any local officials? Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. Anyone else? Welcome. Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you all for participating today. And I also want to say thanks to South Delta High School for allowing us to find this place. So, very helpful. The public meetings are a critical part of the NEPA process, and that's why we're here. We want to hear your thoughts, your comments, and answer your questions. So today, after the presentation, we will open it up for comments. You'll come up and present if you will. There's also other ways that I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, if you have technical questions, we're going to have our subject matter experts are going to be in the back of the room next to the posters, and they can answer any questions that you might have on that. So, there we go. Before we get started, I'd like to open it up for Colonel Gibson for opening remarks.
All right, thank you. 4 quick points. The first is I just want to offer and express my appreciation to those who set this venue up and to you for coming out for it. It's hard work on all of our partners to support this effort. Second, I do want to highlight really the collaborative and constructive coordination across the family of federal agencies. Each bring their unique ideas to the table to find the solution, and I think we've made great progress through this process. Third, I do want to recognize that this, while it's an authorized project, it is new. And so asking questions to understand how it's new is important, and we'll have a team of experts ready to explain that throughout the comment period. And lastly, I just want to say thank you and welcome you to the public session. We're here to meet and listen to our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So let's talk a little bit about the rules of engagement. First and foremost, remember that this will be recorded. We're recording with video, we're recording with audio, and these will be available to the public. Will be on the website, on the public website. Questions and comments We are taking your comments today. You are encouraged to also send emails. The email is up on the screen right now. But you can also send in traditional mail, and the address is right there as well. When it comes time for comments, we are asking that you keep your comments short, to limit to 3 minutes. If you have more time, you need more time, you're more than welcome to get back in line. We will record and capture all of your comments. And as I said, technical questions can be answered in the back of the room. Finally, respectful communication, be respectful and courteous of others, and we're going to do all right. So. All right, so why are we here? You know, it is a priority to provide effective flood risk and environmentally sustainable solutions for the Yazoo backwater. This is what not only the Corps, but the Department of Army and our partnering agencies have all agreed to. Today, we will provide a background on the proposed action. We'll present the draft environmental impact statement, and again, receive your comments. We will continue to receive your comments until August 12th. That'll be the cutoff date. And again, full participation is encouraged. So here's our public meeting schedule. One thing we have done last week, we had our virtual meeting. Today, again, we have this one, and we have one at 2 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock right here in this gym. Tomorrow, we'll do 10 and 2 and 6, but we'll be at the Vicksburg Auditorium in Vicksburg, Mississippi. All right, so as I mentioned, the draft DEIS is published and is ready for public review and comment. There's a 45-day comment period that ends August the 12th. Again, your comments are welcomed and encouraged. Once the comment period closes, the team will work to incorporate those comments, and all responses to comments will be included in the final EIS. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a technical thing. We were going to have a video from Mr. Connor, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. Hopefully we can get that fixed. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Robin Colosimo.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Oh, yeah, you can hear me. Hi, everybody. So yeah, I'm Robin Colosimo. I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Project Planning and Review. So what's that mean? We are a small oversight office that oversees the entire Corps of Engineers Civil Works program. So it does these kinds of projects. I am representing my boss, who, if our video worked, would say it much more eloquently than I. But essentially, his responsibilities as a Biden-Harris official is to oversee the program and ensure we deliver on efforts broadly, but also including those that are a priority of the administration, of which the Yazoo backwater is one. He is one of 6 Assistant Secretaries of the Army, and he has guided this process along with his policy officials. Overarchingly, we are at an important juncture in our progressive interagency work, and we really look forward to your comments today. We're seeking to resolve those complex challenges for and with communities that are long overdue. You all know this better than we do. And I want to thank you in advance for your time, input, and engagement today, and going forward. Next slide, please. Thank you. This was the impetus for the Biden-Harris administration really coming forward. It's this recurring backwater flooding that's been a problem for decades. 2019 event particularly highlighted the challenges in this complex system of flow and how the water gets captured. It's problematic. Up to date, the agencies have not been able to find an implementable solution among our authorities, and that has been the shift in this effort, is to try and focus on the agencies at the federal level, bring some policy oversight from DC to try and find and craft a solution that can be implemented. These most recent floods identified the complexity and the scope of flooding. It's not just to agriculture, it's to communities, it's to roads, it's all the things that are important. And standing water for 6 months in particular is more than problematic for all of us. I will say that when we did the hearings in Rolling Fork some time ago, it was really poignant to hear the depth and breadth of challenges around that flooding. In 2020, when the flooding recurred, it just again hit that push button of why we need progress. Next slide, please. Can you do it for me? Thank you. So what's different about this effort, outside looking in, is really that interagency collaboration. I can say I've been doing this for a really long time, and this is among the most progressive work I've seen. And so what does that mean? It means we've had a whole of government approach. We've really looked to try and craft that solution within those implementing authorities and think about all the things we've heard and learned over time about where the problem lies in finding that implementable solution. DC offices, the highest offices of government, along with the region and the lower district folks, whose boots are on the ground, is where we've tried to integrate over time. That may not have always been visible to you all, but it's important progressive work to craft that solution. I will say I think this is setting the new standard for interagency collaboration. Next slide. I can't get it, thanks. Part of that progressive effort here has been actually about these listening sessions, right? So 14 engagements to date, and this is just the formal stuff, not all the discussions on the one-offs where people pursue discussions with us. Overarching, what we've heard is recurring floods are a big worry. No one wants to repeat 6 months of standing water. A frustration with the lack of collaboration. And of course, there are diverse issues and trade-offs. Next slide. In terms of persistent challenges, I would say these are the 5 buckets we hear the most about. The scope of mitigation is always going to be vast, and how do you make that happen? The impacts to overburdened and underserved communities, the functions and values of wetlands, endangered species, and how to think about their needs, as well as this perception that the pumps only serve agricultural interests. As we went through those interagency sessions and listening sessions, this is kind of the way we've come back to frame this, is that looking forward, we're looking for targeted water operations, targeting primary residences, infrastructure, prime farmland, roads, to make sure we're keeping those all up and operational, fully mitigating impacts before we actually make those impacts, and then not optimizing one purpose over the other, really trying to think about all those equities hand in hand, economic, environmental, community, all at once. That not optimizing is a big shift. Good here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, you can hit the next one. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Corey Winders, our Chief of H&H in the district.
So good morning. So I want to cover a little bit about the area that we're talking about here. So kind of a 30,000 foot view of what's on the screen. So we're talking about the southern part of the Yazoo Basin. It's the northwest part of the state of Mississippi. So this is a protected area. On the west side, the Mississippi River levee protects from the Mississippi River. The south side, you have the Yazoo Backwater levee, Will Whittington levee, and then some other levees going up the east side that protect from the Yazoo River. So this area does work just like this graph on the left side of the screen shows in terms of a bathtub effect. Still Bayou and Little Sunflower are the gated structures we have on the Yazoo Backwater that drain the backwater area. So when the Yazoo River is high, and the interior, the backwater area is low, we close those gates to keep water from coming to the interior, and vice versa. When the Yazoo River is low, we can open those gates to drain the interior. So it's this case where you have a higher Yazoo River and you have rain on the inside that causes this backwater flooding. So just a little bit of view of kind of what we're talking today, and I will talk more in a few slides on the proposed solution and how that'll work.
I pull this out. Good morning. I'm going to stand up because I feel like I'm kind of hiding behind the speaker here. Nobody minds. My name is Tim Axman. I am the chief of the plan formulation branch for the planning division in the lower Mississippi Valley. I'm going to walk through the the basic development of this plan. I'm going to start by our charge here in looking at the problem was to develop an evaluation of an array of alternatives to provide to Mr. Connor to be able to make an informed decision. I'm going to make sure we're looking at the same slides. The objectives, as Ms. Colosimo pointed to, cross a range of, first and foremost, reducing flooding, right? Flooding, and specifically flooding associated with that bathtub effect that Mr. Winters just described. Also, the intensification associated with agriculture, and that means after you've had a flood, now you've got to do a lot of things to remediate the land. That's the intensification we're trying to minimize. But also the effect on the environment. You know, can we minimize the impacts to environmental habitats out there? And if not, how do we mitigate for that? Those are all things that are specifically interest of the federal government. Next slide. So to do that, we look at a range of measures or features. Measures are basically something you can locate in a specific spot to do a specific thing. So the kind of things we look at fall into three categories: the structural part, the pumps, how big they are, where they are, how they operate, the capacity, things that we would address, water, hydrologic conditions. We looked at low flow conditions as well as high flow conditions. And then non-structural measures. What if we just remove the things that could be damaged from that risk rather than try to remove the water? So we take those measures and those individual pieces and we build alternative plans. A collection of measures creates an alternative plan. And is that the final array slide? Yeah. We ended up with 4 alternatives. We always look at what if we did nothing? What if nothing changed? That gives us a baseline. We looked at 2 water management alternatives, right? And that's where we're looking at using pumps to manage the water levels in that bathtub, as Mr. Winters described. We've also layered in some features to look at low flow conditions, and there's still going to be some flooding associated with that management, so some non-structural measures to address things where maybe the flooding still exists. And then finally, we looked at a completely non-structural alternative, simply removing things at risk from that risk. So in detail, let's talk about those water management alternatives. Really, those 2 alternatives, alternative 2 and 3, all the structural features, the pump station, the channels, everything we would build associated with both of those are identical. No difference. What's different is the method of operation. And we're looking at different time frames when we would manage to one level based on crop season and maintaining water levels for crops, and another period of the year where we let water get a little higher to support environmental habitats and outputs. All right, that's the big difference between those two. How do we operate to create that balance, as Colosimo spoke to, across all the needs? All right. Within those 2 alternatives, you jump to that next slide. We also have some non-structural and low flow wells, right? Again, both of those plans, these features are identical. Under low flow conditions, we'd be introducing waters from wells, the upper part of the basin, to maintain water quality and flow throughout the basin. Non-structural would be a series of, at the level where we would not eliminate any flooding, then we want to mandatorily remove all those structures. In the areas where we have some fluctuation, that would be voluntary. We could acquire structures, we could acquire land if the landowner so desired, right? All voluntary. That's the basis of the 2 water management alternatives. And then finally, we have an all non-structural, which would be voluntary, either structure or land acquisition throughout the entire study area. All right. now I want to kind of pass this back to Mr. Winders, and he'll explain in a little more detail what that management of water entails.
Okay, so I'm going to explain the graphic on the right side of the screen first so that you guys can look at that. So the area that's in the light blue is the 90-foot, which would basically be crop season. The area that's inundated in that pinkish color is the 93-foot, which would be non-crop season. And then that yellow or orangish color is actually what occurred in 2019. So that's the three inundations. We have a graphic in the back on a poster of this same one that maybe we can see a little bit better afterwards, and I can address any comments. But I wanted to talk about this solution a little bit. So it's operated seasonally, like was just mentioned. So that's crop season, non-crop season. The difference in the two alternatives, alternative 2 and alternative 3, is crop season would begin on March 16th in alternative 2 and March 25th in alternative 3. So both alternatives transition to non-crop season on October 15th. So how will this water management plan work? So what we're going to do is we track flows at Grace and Anguilla, which are our two northernmost gauges on the Little Sunflower River and Still Bayou. So when we see that the inflow coming through those gauges is enough to increase the stage at Still Bayou to 93, then we will turn the pumps on to keep Still Bayou from going over 93 feet. So we developed a pump curve that kind of tells us when we turn pumps on. They'll be sequenced, just not cutting them all on at one time. But typically, for most events, the pumps would cut on around 92 when Still Bayou hits 92 feet. The 2019 and 2020 events were higher events. The pumps would have cut on around 91.7, a little bit above 91.5 for those two events. So if you look at the pump option, either alternative, the 2019 event would have peaked a little bit above 93, about 93.5, and the 2020 event would have been held to 93. So that's a little bit of way of how the pumps will be operated. It's the same thing for crop season at 90. I've been asked before about the dates. So we'll take alternative 2, for example. Crop season starts on March 16th. If the water is increasing 91, 92 feet on March 15th, we are not going to cut the pumps on to get back down to 90 until March 16th. So when March 16th hits, that's when we start decreasing from 91, 92, where we're at, down to 90. So that's a common question I've been asked. So another question I've been asked is the duration and timing of the pumps. So we ran back the period of record starting at 1979. So 1979 is the first year the Yazoo Backwater was completely finished in operation. So the pumps would have cut on 20 years out of the 43-year period of record, so a little less than 50% of the time. The total days that the pump would have been operated is on the right-hand side of the screen for both alternative 2 and alternative 3. So it would have operated roughly for a month each year if you kind of average those out. 2019, 2020, you see a lot of operation down at the bottom of that screen. If you take those two out, you decrease the operation from essentially 1 month during the year to about 20 days during the year. And I think it's important to note that this average days of pumping only includes the 20 years we look at here. So if you include the entire 43 years, you take the other 23 years that you would have pumped zero, the average days pumping per year drops to about 15 days per year if you include all of it. And people have asked me since 2020, so 2021 through 24, we would have seen no pumping in any of the last 3 or 4 years. So just gives you a little bit of an idea of how often the pumps would have cut on, when they would have cut on. We have a slide in the back that actually shows the particular days or the specific day that the pumps would cut on and cut off in each of these years. And I'll be in the back after this to answer any more questions you have specifically on this.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so another feature of all these or the water management plans is when we lower water levels, there are going to be some impacts to existing habitats. And so a feature of the plans is going to be mitigation for those effects, compensatory mitigation. One of the things we're required to do is we have to make sure we have that acquisition of mitigation in parallel with the construction of any features. And so that's one of the things we're going to be doing, getting that mitigation in place as you would build that project. The approach for doing that, and it's a tiered approach, we could use an in-lieu fee program where there are organizations, non-governmental organizations that would acquire land and make improvements to it and maintain that land for us. We can use mitigation banks that exist within the basin and simply buy the offset credits for that mitigation. Or if there's any remaining requirement, then we could actually construct projects as part of the overall projects. And we've had a tremendous collaboration, coordination with the resource agencies who are here with us today, EPA, Fish and Wildlife Service. They've been working on a biological assessment for the pondberry, other endangered species, and they've helped us work through this problem. Last slide, status of environmental compliance. Lots of requirements we have to meet for any federal projects. Endangered Species Act, going well. I just said we're working with the resource agencies, getting those assessments, starting that consultation. Historic Preservation Act, we are working on a programmatic agreement that would allow us to move forward and address any cultural sites we encounter as we encounter them over the course of the project. And then finally, Clean Water Act 404. We've been working with the state of Mississippi to finalize that, and that will most of these will come with a final document. We're at the draft now, and that's why we're here getting your comments to be able to help facilitate that coordination with all the folks we have to coordinate with. And I think with that, I turn it back to Mike.
Okay, so where are we? Looking at the timeline, you can see that on August 12th, like I said, the public comment period ends. So from August to October, we're going to be addressing those comments and finalizing the environmental impact statement. From October to December, that's when we've got a variety of things that are going to happen. We expect the EIS to be complete. There will be a notice of availability, the final secretary determination, and then finally the record of decision. Next slide, please. And with that concludes our presentation. So now we will open it up for comments. I encourage you to come up to the microphone and tell us what you think. Next slide, please.
Yes, I don't have a timer, so if someone would, out of respect from the following speakers, when it's 30 seconds, maybe just raise your hand or something like that. I'm Jeff North. I'm consulting and entomologist for agriculture producers offering agronomic advice on insect, weed, and disease control in crops. Moreover, I am an outdoor writer for the Northside Sun newspaper, where the flora and the fauna of Mississippi is dear to me. It defines what I am, both good and bad. The best predictor of the future is the past. This will happen again unless we take steps to find a balance for the benefit of humanity, for producers, for citizens, for residents in the Yazoo Backwater area. and also with the wildlife and the flora and the fauna. Nothing survives, nothing does well in these extreme instances like this. The pondberry does not do well 20 feet underwater with silt on it. Warblers, the wild turkey, nothing makes it in this. It's a stagnant quagmire. But science, and I'm a big believer in science, the science has shown through the hydrology studies that this is a fix, this is a solution for all parties. I almost put the nature and the wildlife and the fish above my personal interests. When the crops were lost, we didn't have any acres, I didn't have any income. I worked for the producer, and we get paid on a fee per acre to offer advice. We didn't have a crop, but still, from Paleolithic times, when the Clovis culture migrated through the pass out of Siberia, the history 13,000 years ago of the United States is vast, and we need to preserve all we can with the environmental issues, our wildlife, our fisheries, our ag producers, and this is a solution. This will work. I've read about it and studied. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a hydrologist, but based on the facts of what you presented and the other powers to be, it's novel, it's worthy, and I support alternative 2. I'm an outdoorsman. I want to spend my time in the swamps, but I also want our producers to make livings for their families too. So I'll leave my card, my contact information out front. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. This is something very, very dear to me, and I commend the plan that you've come up with. So thank you so much, okay?
I'm John Phillips from Holly Bluff. Thank you for the opportunity to make these comments, and thank you for the work that you've done up to this point. My first personal experience with flooding was in 1973 in the Yazoo Backwater area. My most recent was 2019. I think there's been 9 major flood events between 73 and 19. I see you, don't fact check that, because I'm not sure. But to me, a major flood event's when I got to move, my land underwater, people are building levees and spending money to protect their property. I don't know if y'all classify that a major event or not. That means that there's been a major flood, by my definition, roughly every 5 years. A man-made disaster every 5 years. Since 1973, I've seen lives lost, family farms lost, homes and businesses destroyed, the bloated carcasses of deer and other wildlife floating in the backwater because they starved to death, crops wiped out, and hundreds of millions, probably billions. I can't prove that either. But since 1973, I believe there have been billions of dollars lost in the Yazoo backwater area. Backwater flooding brings devastation, destruction, to whatever area is flooded. There are not any winners. The community, the people, everything in that area loses. The people, the way of life, the environment, the wildlife, bottomland hardwood forest, the very things that make the South Delta a unique and special place. The things that we should be protecting, we're allowing man-made floods to destroy. I feel like we should be embarrassed and we should be ashamed. We should be better stewards of the land and the wildlife, the natural resources that we've been blessed with in the South Delta. We should care more about the portion of the part of our state that we're destroying. There's only one solution for the Yazoo backwater flooding, and that's the pumps. And it finally appears that we are making progress toward getting the pumps installed. And for that, I want to thank the Corps of Engineers, the EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for working together, and any other agencies involved in putting forth a balanced approach, a balanced solution to this problem that we've been living with in the South Delta for far too long. I want to urge, ask, plead, beg, whatever word you want to use, to move forward as quickly as possible to use alternative 2 in the operations, and to thank you for your time, for the work you've done, and I appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Josh Miller. I've spoken at these at length several times. I won't take much of your time this morning. My family's been farming in Onward, Mississippi for over 125 years, and I'm the owner of Onward Plantation, and we support alternative number 2. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chat Phillips, and I've altered my comments a couple of times already, but I'm the younger brother. I want to be sure y'all understand I'm the younger brother of John Phillips. And again, I'd like to thank you all for the work you've done, putting forth alternatives to this ongoing problem for our area. Thank you, and I'm here today to offer my support and comments for alternative 2. Now, I'm certain that you will hear, as already has been expressed, a catalog of the damages that have occurred through 2019. John went all the way back to 1973. My comments, if I went that way, would also go back to 1973. I remember that flood as well and all the subsequent floods. Today, I want to talk a little differently and talk about how the lack of an outlet at the bottom of this watershed affects the entire watershed. So I trust you'll hear about the damages of the direct impact of flooding. But let me go a little different route, and I represent Yazoo County on the Yazoo Mississippi Delta Joint Water Management District, hereafter referred to as Water Management District. We are a 17 county area. We represent all or part of 17 counties. The watershed of the backwater pump overlays the district except for Warren County. So Warren County is not in the water management district. Our task at the water management district is to assure that we have water available for future generations. Yes, ag water supply drove the formation of the district, but that is not all we do. And having seen the slide, I would point out that the Water Management District currently has the O&M on the Friars Point well field. I noticed that a well field is part of proposed mitigation. We've been operating a well field for, I think, 20 years. I can tell you some pros and cons of a well field, but I was in the room when we sought USDA funding to construct that well field. It was constructed to maintain low flow in the Sunflower River. Now, we think, like many water projects, that it has a water supply component, but we went after the USDA funding for low flow. So with that said, at the Water Management District, when we look for our solutions, with 50+ inches of rainfall a year, we always come to a scenario that stores water. And it stores water in the middle and upper part of the watershed. Now, actual projects, these and I'm using the term projects, these are small things that have occurred. But we have ecosystem restoration projects with a water supply component. We have a water supply component with a 319 tie-in. We have had migratory waterfowl projects with an aquatic habitat component. These are the kind of things that work on the landscape in the upper part of the watershed. And I don't see any scenario where the solution for the next generations don't have some of these type projects. It is a smart solution to some of the problems that we're facing. The problem with that is underlying all of these projects is they have the potential to exacerbate flooding in the south end of the watershed. I mean, without a defined outlet for the water in the south end of the watershed, I can't advocate for these type of projects in the middle and upper part of the watershed. And I will tell you, I have opposed projects that I thought had the potential to exacerbate flooding in the South Delta. I mean, we just know that that's not the right way to solve one of our water resource problems. So that is why I ask you today not only to implement Alternative 2, but implement it as soon as possible so that we can go about the job of doing the other activities of watershed that would help the livelihoods and the quality of life throughout the entire watershed. Thank you for your time.
Hi, y'all. I'm Eddie Hatcher, this Gwinnett County District 1 Supervisor. And dealing with the flood in our area, it costs a lot of money for our county. I mean, I have 86 miles of road in my district, and all but just maybe a quarter of a mile was completely underwater. And in our county, I'm the supervisor for the county, and I manage 6,000 acres of hunting ground. And first thing is, when you have people that have lived there all their life, and I'm 54, and you see most of them gone now due to their homes flooded and, you know, this sort of thing, that hurts. I mean, that hurts more than just the people not being there. You know them personally because we live in a small area. But when you see animals that are laying dead all in your own personal yard, you know, and this happened in 19, and our animals are just now getting to come back where you see some. The roads that we have all in our area, we don't have businesses like everywhere else. Nobody wants to come here when they think, oh, I'm gonna get flooded out, this sort of thing. So everything about the pumps is a positive for our area, the wildlife, the people, businesses may come, but a lot of our ground in there is recreational as far as hunting on the lower end, but there's lots and lots of farming that goes on. And the pumps coming on and going off and all this at 92 foot, and I heard a while ago that the water will stay below 93, is that correct? Well, 93 foot is still going to put a pile of farm ground that people make a living on underwater in my area. A lot of it is going to be underwater. Anyway, and when people, I mean, we have people now that are still, since 2019, are not coming back to build their homes because it's already happened one time. What's to say it's not going to happen again? I mean, the pumps are the only answer that we have as a saving grace. I personally would like to see, the pumps are 25,000 cubic foot a minute, correct? All right, on a big rain up north, how much cubic flow a minute are going out the gates? Do you know that? With the pumps? What I'm saying is there more water coming down than the pumps can pump out? Or why, I mean, if we wait to this level and turn them on after you get a big 10-inch rain, I mean, you're still going to get flooded a lot. And I'm just asking, and I'm all about the pumps at whatever we can get them. I mean, the pumps are the only answer we have. But if you have like a float switch, okay, what is the ideal water levels to handle your wetlands that everybody are worried about? Do we know that level? If we had something that would say, and I'm just coming up with numbers, this is nothing facts, I'm just coming up with numbers. If 85-foot elevation is the water level that's good for wetlands, well, or 75-foot, whatever it is, if you kept the gates shut on Steel Bayou to where it would hold that water level for your wetlands, and then that, you know, it's going to get higher than that float switch comes on, boom, it pumps out, and then all of a sudden it drops back down to 85, it cuts off on its own. I don't understand the time frame of this, of why we only going to turn it on this time, we're going to turn it off on this time. But if wetlands is kind of a big thing, set you a level. Pump comes on, it pumps out when it gets above that, your wetlands are good. It also protects the people. You know, when you wait and you let it get higher, it's going to be harder for that to pump out if you have a big rain. You understand what I'm saying? And you still can have water for people to irrigate and the water table in the ground and all this. But when you go to dealing with having to pay for people, to, you know, they're gone, your roads are torn up, because at 93 foot, I'm going to have a lot of my county roads that are going to be underwater. You know, I got people that are still gone now that, you know, the roads are going to go under at certain levels and they can't get to their homes, so they got to go. Even though it's not flooded everywhere, the roads are. Well, what's it going to cost to go in? And I hear the mitigation of building up levees and building ring levees and doing all this when it's a simple deal to lower the water a little bit. You know. So, but anyway, I'm all for the pumps, and whatever we can get them, I'm in. But I'm just saying, I think that if we had it set with a float switch where it comes on and goes off, that would be the best, in my opinion. Thank y'all for coming and listening, and I appreciate everything. Thank y'all.
Glad y'all are here today to listen to us. I'm Jimbo Newman. I'm a semi-retired farmer now, but I had many years experience with the floods, and I farmed between Rolling Fork and Grace and what's called Lorenzen at Valley Park, with a field that was at actually Valley Park back behind where the old store and the post office was, and Fittler. And numerous floods, but I want to give you a little bit of my data, which is this. We're at the mercy of the Mississippi River, and all the land that I farm was on the Steel Bayou side. And you lose crops or you get late planting, but sometimes we get tremendous amount of water October, November, and December. And a lot of times it's between January and April, but in 19, it was between January and June. In the last 3 months of 2018, we got 22.6 inches of rain. In 19, by the end of June, we'd got another 54.7 inches of rain. So that's 77.3, and of course, 91 for the year, 78 for the year, and 20, but I'm here for alternative 2. If you want to give these guys a chance to really farm, then you need to do it in the middle of March. If you do it at the end of March, corn's out. If we get a lot of rain like that, there's no way they'll get it in. They're hoping they'll get in soybeans. So I hope you will consider it and go with alternate number two plan. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lonnie Boykin. I'm a farmer for Sharkey and Esquina County. My family and I have been farming for a long time. We appreciate y'all doing all this for us today for us to comment. I would personally like to see the level drop about 3 feet, but if these are our 4 alternatives, my family most definitely supports alternative number 2. Thank y'all.
Good morning. I'm Way Wyndham. I'm the sheriff of Esquina County. And thank y'all for coming. Thank you for previously coming before, listening to us. Some of y'all I recognize, some that were here before, I don't recognize. In my lifetime, I've seen 2 major floods. 1973 and 2019. In between those 2 years, there's been multiple other floods. In 1973, the Backwater project wasn't complete. I was 7 years old. It put us out of cattle business. I thought it was, detrimental, but it wasn't. In 2019, I was farming myself. I farmed around 2,000 acres. 2019, I farmed 500. I planted it 3 times. Shouldn't have planted the 500. The deer ate it up. This alternate 2 that you propose, thank you for doing that. It's probably the best of what you have, what you're offering us. From a farmer's standpoint of view, I probably would like it lower a little bit. From a sheriff's point of view, I need it as low as I can get it. You heard from one of my supervisors, District 1. In 2019, before then, he and I were what I thought was good friends. In 2019, we became the best of friends because we spent every day together for about 6 months. Either shuffling sandbags to problem houses, building levees with sandbags, or in boats. And you'll hear, we don't have time for me to talk, but you'll hear lots of stories, and they're sad. And I'm not here to make you hear sad stories, but I will be here today to tell you, Mr. Eddie Hatcher and I, we have seen all the terrible devastation. The dead animals, the people, that can't come back to their homes. We have people in our county right now that want to come back home. They've lived there for 3 generations. They will not come back home and rebuild from 2019 or do anything, because this flood will happen again. There's no way that you can say scientifically, any kind of way, that it won't. I've seen it twice, and I'm 58 years old. I would thank y'all for taking the time to do this. This is what we asked you to do. You did your homework. You got all the statistics. What I would close with is, this is not just Esquina County. This is not just Esquina County flood. It includes multiple counties: Yazoo, part of Humphreys, Sharkey, Issaquena, part of Warren. Warren is not excluded. Part of Washington. We need help, and we need it real fast, because this, all it takes is several storms to get the Mississippi River up and in the flood zone, and we can't open still by our gates. And if there's one thing, I went to a meeting. I've been to multiple meetings on this right here with y'all. Some of you people that came in prior meetings down to still by our gates, and y'all had your maps and graphs right on top of the gates. And I couldn't think of a finer place for y'all to have a meeting for people that do not know anything about the flooding in the Yazoo Backwater area. But I had one of the men that's not here on your panel today to tell me we did not understand what the Yazoo Backwater was until we came right here. And he turned to me and said, the Yazoo Backwater area is like a gigantic bathtub. And it's real simple now. I'm standing here on these gates, and this is the plug in the bathtub. We're all smart people. How can we not see this? I'm going to leave, and please help us get some type pump. If the 93 feet is all we can get, we need it, and we need it real fast. Thank y'all for coming and allowing us to speak.
Yeah, I'm Max Shorter. I'm one of those people that Eddie was talking about, the water ran them away from their home. Eddie and the Shad, they saved my house. I built a house in 2005, and the water would have got in my house, but the sandbags, and we built a levee around the house and saved the house. But I wound up selling the house and my farm too, because my wife said she wasn't coming back down there, and I wasn't going back without her. So the pump worked. I worked for the Corps of Engineers for 37 years, and I worked at pumping stations. I know what they'll do. You know, just listen at, if you never saw it happen, you may not really understand, but I worked around the pumping station. I know what they'll do. They'll keep the water away from you. I saw it happen too many times. So we need the pumps. We really do. We need the pump worse than anything, because they do work, and I know that. With that, I thank you.
My name's Larry, excuse me, Larry Whitten. I live in Valley Park, South Delta. I didn't come with a lot of technical information or studies or anything to really present, but I do appreciate y'all coming. I know it's a lot of work went into this, and I appreciate that. We've had meetings after meetings, and we're ready for some action. If this is the best we can do, I'm all for it. Proposal 2. If I would like, as others have said, to really send it a little lower, but that may not be an option now. And if it's not, we want you to give us the best that you can give us. I've lived through the floods. I've lived in Valley Park all my life, been associated with agriculture all my life, raised my families there. We've been through some pretty hard times. Our county officials have done a great job in helping us through these times, but we still have a long way to go just to recover from this last flood. But we want agriculture, we want wildlife, wetlands. I'm for all of it. And the last flood, cannot count the number of deer that were killed on Highway 61 because there was nowhere else for them to go. They come to the highway because everything else was flooded. Every morning, the state highway department would make a pass up through there just to clean the dead carcasses off of the highway. So the wildlife is very important. After the flood, the water had receded. Of course, we didn't have any grass in the yard, anything. Sandbags kept the water out of my house. But it was about 8 or 9 weeks after the water had gone off the land. Me and my wife were sitting outside, and I said, "Listen, do you hear that?" She said, "No, I don't hear anything." I said, "That's right. There were no birds, nothing. It was just all like being in a void almost. No crops growing, no tractors running, very little traffic." I know we've talked about Warren County. I have a lot of friends in Warren County. That's where we do a lot of business. But numerous of them said, "Y'all need some help, because when y'all don't do any farming, any agriculture, there's no business." You'd be surprised how much business was lost just in other counties, not just Warren County. It just happened to be where I live. But I appreciate the work y'all have done, and I do support you. And we hope that this can be taken care of in a timely manner, which would be as soon as possible. Thank you.
Any more comments?
My name is Charles Wassinger. I'm the elected county prosecutor for this county. And this is for the record, and I thought that it would be pertinent that you're having a meeting in this school, and when you built the steel by gates, there were 4,000 children in this school area. Now there are 450, and the floods ran them off. Almost 90% of the children are gone, and I think that would be pertinent to the things that you're supposed to do. I didn't prepare any remarks, and I probably should have, but I thought since you're building a record, that I wanted to emphasize that this flood in this basin is not a natural occurrence, in that it's dry as a bone across the river half the time when we have a flood here. The water will be 100-foot mean sea level here, and at 85 mean sea level right across the river, it's dry as a bone. They're having a drought. The floods have been created by the government, and we're looking to the government to come up with a solution to fix the problem that the government created. Thank you.
Well, again, I thank everyone for coming out today. If you have any more questions, we're going to have our subject matter experts in the back of the posters. Corey is heading that way. We've already started to gather in the back as well. Again, with the comments, we still are accepting comments. You can do emails. We have something in the back here. You can fill out a comment card there. So I'm going to hand it off to Robin for closing comments.
I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your day to share your views and thoughts with us. We continue to be open to them. This is hugely important to you all, and we want to craft that solution. If you do have more specific comments, going to the back is really helpful. And of course, always documenting them in a letter in addition as you see fit would be useful. We're going to continue to work this solution and hope to get this done by the end of the year. Thanks for your time.